If you enjoy good Italian wine and food, you are going to love Italian Wine Notes. It's the newest book by co-authors Gary Grunner and Bob Lipinski, who are both experts in the wine and spirit industry. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having us.
Sure. First, let's start a little bit about your background, how you guys became experts. A little bit of research along the way?
Well, it's a lot of research, a lot of tasting wines.
A lot of research with the corkscrew.
I could imagine.
Yeah.
Well, Italian Wine Nerds started when I started in the industry in the '80s. There was no internet. There was no smartphone, so there was no way to get information. So when I was running an Italian wine team, what we had to do is we had to start writing notes. And the first book that we did was we had about a dozen or 2 dozen journals.
Look at that, that's the original one,
This is the original journal, and then from here we realized that we can take these journals and we can put them into books. They'd be great for consumers and great for, great for people who are even wine professionals.
Sure.
And that was the one.
It actually is notes. Pages,
Look at that.
which are falling out, I should say.
Oh, how interesting.
And we took the Italian wine notes, or the notes of Italian wine, and we created the book Italian Wine Notes. But Gary and I, as far as meeting, Gary was running a major importer at the time, and I was running a major distributor as director of training. And we both started evolving around each other at various events and started speaking about wine. And I was doing training and seminars in this Italian wine, and he was doing things. And about 20 years ago.
It was
Hey, you guys hit it off, huh?
Yeah, it was 20. Well, it was 20 years ago, and the funny thing was, I would get up and do a presentation to about 100 of his salespeople, and in the middle of the presentation, Bob would raise his hands and go, "Well, Gary, I don't know about that. Let's talk about that."
That's not quite right.
So we started this relationship of fact finding.
Sure.
And then we realized that we had a great opportunity to take everything that we shared a passion for, and to put it together.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the book. Bob, break it down for me. How is it kind of organized?
Okay, the book, in addition to covering wines, it also covers regional foods. Foods covered would be some of the meats like salame and sopressata and prosciutto, mortadella, some of the olive oils, mostly extra virgin, cheese, Parmigiano, some Gorgonzola, a little Pecorino Romano, some Bel Paese, mozzarella. So if you like Italian wine, you have to like Italian food.
They go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
They enhance the other.
And especially if you're traveling. So we cover all the wines, then we cover the various regions of Italy, all 20.
Wow.
And we talk about what wines come from that region, and then we break the wine down, what it looks like, smells like, and tastes like.
Right.
And for the non-Italian speaking person, every wine, every grape, every region, we have a phonetic pronunciation.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And what we've done also, we've taken a selection of popular Italian wines and then wines that you can opportunity to discover. So you can take it to a wine store, or you can bring it to a restaurant. You can go through and you can start taking notes and say, "Hey, I really want to try this." The interesting thing about Italy is one big vineyard. I mean, all 20 regions, the 20 states. There's about 2,000 to 3,000 indigenous grapes. So it really is a lifetime of study. The hardest thing that we had with Italian Wine Notes, this was the toughest book we had to put out because the laws kept on changing. The Italian wine laws kept on changing, and then the EU came in and they put in their regulations. Because the difference between California and the difference between Italian wines is California, we name our wines after grapes.
Okay.
In Italy, it's after regions and districts and areas, and sometimes you pick up a bottle of Barolo, you think that's the grape. The grape is not Barolo. The grape is
See, that's different in the United States, then,
much
right? We
much
don't have
different.
that. Okay.
Yeah. So there's more strict laws. So this gives you a great understanding. If I'm a restaurateur and if I want to, enhance my Italian wine list, or I want to put some wines on, I can look through this. If I'm traveling through Italy, I can get some ideas in the regions of what I want to eat or what I want to drink.
It's like a handbook. You should take it with you, right?
Absolutely.
When you're traveling to Italy, or
Absolutely.
your favorite wine shop, or even restaurant.
I like
we
that.
also cover sparkling wines like Asti and Brachetto and Prosecco.
Prosecco.
All the liqueurs like Amaretto and Sambuca.
Right.
And even a lot of the spirits like Grappa.
And that's great, though. And you're kind of pairing this along with food along the way?
We're actually we're pairing it. We're giving you recommendations of producers. We're not selecting specific producers. We're saying this group of 12 are great opportunities to try, because the unique thing about wine is you may like something particular and I may not. So you get an opportunity to try different producers of the same wine, and you might find a style that you prefer.
Sure. So Bob, let me ask you this: if you want to start an Italian wine collection, what's the starting point? Where do you get going?
starting point is actually reading the book first,
Sure, that makes sense.
and second, going to your local wine shop and asking for advice.
Right.
All right, and then Gary, let me ask you, what's a bottle of wine you should always have on hand? What do you recommend?
Well, you know what? If you're doing white wines, it's always safe to have a bottle of Pinot Grigio. You know, Soave right now is the new hot Italian white style wine, Soave from Veneto. For reds, you want to have Barbera. It's a great everyday wine that pairs well with everything. A Montepulciano. If you want to spend a little more money, you can do an Amarone like we have showing. You can do a Ripasso. If you want to get creative in whites, you can do a Falanghina from Campania. The interesting thing about Italy over the years, it's a fairly new country, you know, that's been unified. So there's been so many different parts of it that have been occupied by so many different, you know, other countries and cultures that you really have, like in Campania, it's filled with Greek grapes, the Falanghina and Greco di Tufo. So you really can have an exciting, you know, journey through it.
Great.
But I would definitely start off with those basics.
Let's add Chianti to that.
Oh, that's a good one
absolutely.
too, right?
We have to
Can't go
add
wrong with that.
Chianti.
What does your wine cellar look like at home? Pretty extensive, huh?
Actually, I'm not a collector of wines. I'm really a drinker of wines.
Yeah, fair enough.
I prefer to have a good bottle of wine instead of looking at it for 3 years.
That's true, right?
Or, you know, you hold it for 3 years, and after 3 years, you open it and you say, I should have drunk it 3 years ago
Yeah, I get it. All
because
right.
it's not quite that good anymore.
On the other hand, I have about 250 bottles.
do.
I do, and the hardest thing about collecting wine is the fact that it's kind of like when somebody collects business, you know, trading cards or comic books when you're growing up, and it's an adult passion.
Sure.
And unfortunately, you buy things and you put them away and you never want to open them.
wanna
So
save them,
you
I
want to
get
save
it.
them. So if you open up our cellar, we have wines from the 60s,
Wow.
from the 50s.
You're going to have special occasions then. Open those bottles,
Well,
right?
you know,
20 years we know each other. I have never been there.
You better have them over for dinner and I'll come too.
You can.
Gentlemen,
We'll bring
thanks
a
so much
corkscrew.
for being here.
Thank you very
Pleasure.
much.
The name of the book again is Italian Wine Notes by Gary Grunner and Bob Lipinski, and we'll have a link over onto our website. You could find it there. Thanks again.
no, thanks for having us.
Up next, Betty Ann Donegan and student Brandon share a recipe for hearty winter soup. That's when Style returns. We'll be right back.